Do you ever see a successful woman on your feed or in a magazine and think, wow, it must be nice to have it so easy? Well, think again. Behind that glossy cover or smiling face is a ton of hard work, countless failures, and endless learning experiences. I'm Rebecca Minkoff, and I'm here to tell you that success isn't a walk in the park. It takes grit, resilience, and a willingness to take risks. That's why I created Superwoman, a podcast that peels back the varnish and gets into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to make it as a woman in today's world. From luminaries and game changers to women you've never heard of but should, this podcast is here to inspire you to take your next leap, no matter how daunting it may seem. We'll explore the sacrifices these women have made, the highs and lows they've experienced, and the lessons they've learned along the way. So if you're ready to be inspired and learn from some of the most successful women out there, join me on Superwomen. Together, we'll uncover the stories behind the successes and prove that with hard work, determination, and a little bit of luck, anything is possible. Hey everyone, you're listening to Superwomen. Today's guest is the founder of Sweet Lorens, Loren Castle. I have been a huge fan of her incredible, delicious cookie dough for as long as it's been around. And we actually got to hang out at one of our female founder collective retreats, and I felt like I was in the presence of greatness. Loren has single-handedly built this company from her kitchen to the shelves of over 25,000 stores around the country. She is about to launch a ton of new products, one I am so excited about. Take a listen to hear how she took something that almost took her life and turned it into a beautiful company. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on. I obviously knew of your cookies before I got the pleasure of spending a couple of days with you at our retreat. But they were at my friend's house. This was like a couple of years ago, and they were always in the fridge, and she would eat them raw, and then I was eating them raw. My kids loved them. And I was like, whoever this woman is, I hope it's a woman, um, is a genius, and I'm obsessed. So when I got to meet you, I felt kind of fangirly because I was like, wait, you're in my fridge all the time. I'm looking at you.
I love that so much. And I know when I met your mom and she was like, I really need these. Like I
Yeah.
actually, it's honestly why I love growing this company is how happy it makes people
Yeah.
and how I really feel like there's a true need in the market. It's not just like another Me Too product.
Correct. And for those tuning in, you've obviously heard my intro, but Loren has Sweet Loren's, the most delicious raw and or cooked cookies I've eaten, especially for someone who's gluten-free. So I would love to go back. Like, did you always know you wanted to do this, or were you doing something completely different?
I don't even think I had a chance to try to do anything else. I definitely growing up, I definitely didn't talk about having a bakery or something like that. It's not like I was baking all the time growing up, but I have always had a huge sweet tooth. Like I love health and wellness. I love healthy food. I really love feeling my best, but I'm just not satisfied unless I have like, something kind of yummy and a yummy treat. And I grew up in New York City around a lot of amazing bakeries. I worked at Levain, that
Oh my
amazing
God.
cookie,
Yeah.
bakery for a couple years and just saw the love people had of cookies. People would line up around the block for warm cookies. So I think all these things like were in the back of my head, but the idea for Sweet Loren's really came because I got sick. So when I was 22, right after graduating USC, um, 22, felt invincible, just finished college. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I had a type of cancer that's one of the most common found in young adults. They don't know why you get it. And I had to go through chemo treatment immediately. And so I left LA, went back to New York, moved in with my family. And while all of my friends were, partying their faces off and like having their first real, full-time jobs and just kind of feeling like adults for the first time, I was just like completely clueless, down in the dumps, back at home, depressed and just really focused on my health. And so during my treatment, I asked my doctor, like, what else can I do? Like, I will do anything in my power to make sure I get through this and that not just get through this, but that like I'm so thriving on the other side.
Yeah.
And he didn't really have, he was such an amazing doctor, but he didn't really have any other tools to give me. And so instinctively, I just was like, I went deeper into meditation and just really connecting with my mind and positive thinking, because I just felt like the second you let your mind kind of go down that dark rabbit hole, it's so easy to go to a depressed, dark place. And so I was like, I held on to my mind tight and was like, I gotta just stay positive. I just have to keep focused, one foot in front of the other. And then food to me was just this other necessity. It's like
Yeah.
we need food as fuel to fill our bodies and give us energy. And I just knew that like I didn't have positive thoughts or high energy when I ate anything artificial, anything processed. I just felt like shit. And
Yeah.
so that's when I was like, man, like, why isn't cleaner food more delicious and more easily available?
Yeah.
It didn't seem right to me. So I decided to take cooking classes during the days I didn't have treatment. And because I also had to stay busy in some way. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, on the days I don't have treatment, I'm going to study nutrition. I'm going to take cooking classes and study nutrition. And my goal was like just to be a great home cook for the rest of my life and learn how to make food delicious at home, but fuel it with like less processed, whole, real food, just whatever tricks I could find to make eating, delicious but healthier so that you could feel more energized, have heal faster, all the
Hmm.
things. And I became a good cook and I have a huge sweet tooth. And all of the dessert recipes were the same things. Like there was no one doing healthier and delicious. And so I love cookies. I think a warm cookie out of the oven is the best thing in the world. And I just had this kind of vision. I was like, I know there's a million normal cookie recipes. What if I could recreate a chocolate chip cookie, but in like a better for you way?
Yeah.
And so start to use every type of whole grain flour out there, every type of oil out there, every type of sugar. I mean, I tried it all and it was absolutely disgusting, the first, dozens of batches because, I learned that like you can't really bake with stevia, right? Like certain ingredients just don't work with baking.
Yeah.
And just kept testing them on my family and my friends. And over time, I just saw the reaction of people and it made me realize that like I'm not the only one who wants a healthier way to satisfy their sweet tooth. Like everyone I meet actually is so excited about this concept of better for you baked goods. And I'm a foodie. I'm not going to eat it unless it's so delicious. So
Yeah.
I realized like I have this high bar for what taste needs to be, but
Yeah.
I'm also really strict about the ingredients that needs to go in it. And like that was a winning combination to kind of create a brand around, you know, best tasting, high quality, better for you baked goods that no one was really doing. And so again, this was just like this hobby in the back of my head for a couple years. Thankfully, I was cured and my doctor was like, okay, you're done. You're gonna have to come every 6 months and do scans and just make sure you're, cancer free for the next 5 years, but like go get a normal job, be normal. And I was like, I couldn't be normal. I couldn't
No.
get a normal job, right?
No.
Like I felt like I had aged a lot. I felt
How old
like,
were you when?
so I was 22 when I was diagnosed. I was 23 when I was cancer free. And I, started baking during treatment. And then really when I was like 26, so about 3 years later is when I jumped in to start Sweet Loren's.
So, what gave you the confidence to start a company? You don't have a degree, right? Because you left school.
Well, I did graduate with a BA in communication, but not business or
Right, right, right. So you're just like, cool, I have a BA in communication. I've been baking at home. Talk to me about that jump when you're like, all right, I'm doubling down. It's going to be my name, and here I go. And who were your first customers? Was it friends and family? Was it like the local stores? Like, how did that all go down?
So it was a combination of two things. One, once my doctor was like, you're free, go get a normal job. I really tried. Like I tried to be normal. I tried to work for a PR company. I hated it. I tried to work in finance, never fit me. I tried to run a restaurant. I tried to help start a catering company. I tried to work for a wine company, and none of it felt meaningful to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I don't like someone telling me what to do. And none of it made me excited about the future.
Yeah.
And so I realized I'm pretty unemployable. Like I am an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so I think that journey for a couple of years of jumping around and trying to fit into a different mold, I realized I just wasn't happy. And it got me to a point where I was like, you couldn't pay me any amount of money. Like, I don't want to come in tomorrow and work for someone else.
Right.
So there was something in me that just drew a line. And the other part is that I kept baking. And again, I didn't realize it would be a business. It was more that, like, it was always the thing I'd come home to. So like I'd come home and like, what would I want to do? Like, I'd want to bake. I'd want to test a recipe. I'd want to try a new ingredient. It's what it's where my passion just started to show. And I realized, like, I loved baking, like all aspects of it. I loved how hard it was, because I know baking on the outside seems really cute and simple, and maybe most kind of traditional recipes are very straightforward, but baking, gluten-free, vegan, better for you, but have it be so delicious tasting is very challenging.
Yeah.
And I loved actually the challenge of it, and I loved the joy it brought people, and I loved doing something that I felt like no one had done before, so it felt needed. And so all those things combined, and then I entered a baking contest because a
In New
friend kind
York
of
City?
nudged me and was like, and it was the Lower East Side Girls Club, like, baking contest.
Okay.
It was like a charity baking contest, and I won.
Oh
And
my God.
and Gina De Palma, who used to be like a famous pastry chef in New York, she came up to me and she was like, "You need to do something with this." And it was so validating, because family and friends had always said, like, Loren loves to bake. Loren should do something with baking. But like, have someone on the outside,
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
in, who's a real professional in the industry, and notice that something special and different. It really helped give me that confidence.
Yeah.
So then I took a business writing course to, like, figure out what Sweet Lorens could be, and was trying to figure out, do I want to open a bakery, or do I want to create like a consumer packaged good, like a product that could be sold, in supermarkets. And a guy in my business writing course worked in Whole Foods, and he set me up on a meeting with Whole Foods,
Oh my
and
gosh.
way before I was ready. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm talking, like, I literally had a website that said coming soon. I didn't have an actual product because I wasn't sure what my business would be. Like, am I doing baked cookies? Am I doing cookie dough? Are we doing baking mixes? And but I took the meeting, and I had a one pager on, like, what my ingredients were, what we stood for. I had like 10 different types of cookies I made for this buyer, and he loved them. And he had kids, and he was like, no one has built the next brand name in natural cookie dough. Like, it needs to come from someone younger. It needs to come from someone who, like, is at the forefront of this, who's this passionate, who cares. And I would totally buy this, And so he was like,
Wow.
let me meet with the rest of the senior buying team. And then he called me the next day and was like, how soon until we could how soon, we're ready to buy some cookie dough from you. And so getting into Whole Foods and winning that contest gave me the confidence that there was a need in the market, and that I didn't know anything about this industry, but if I just showed up and, like, kept to my word and did my research, I would figure it out.
Yeah.
And I kind of just convinced my brain of that. And I really think I was really looking, when I went through all treatment and everything, like, I remember talking to the universe a lot and being like, if I just can get through this,
Yeah.
like, if you will make sure I survive this, like, and help me thrive after it. Like, I don't want to be depressed for the rest of my life, or feel like I'm just so scarred from this, or have PTSD, like, I was scared, even if I survived, like, would I be able to thrive for the rest of my life? And I was so young. So I just really felt like, if I can get through this, I will promise you, universe, that I will figure out a way to turn this into, like, the biggest positive, and, like, my strength, and figure out how to make something really good for the world. And so I think just the combination of all those things happening made me, like, jump 110% into Sweet Lawrence.
Oh my God. That's incredible. What blows my mind though is an opportunity that every entrepreneur dreams of, but they have no idea how complicated it is, right? To deal with a big box retailer and the just getting the goods in. And I mean, you were cooking these out of your kitchen. So, I remember I wanted department stores so badly, and my sales rep was like, "You're not ready, you're not ready." And then we shipped our first order and it bombed. And she's like, "I told you you weren't ready. Like, there's a reason why I warned you." So I would love to hear, like, what did you do next? You didn't have a kitchen.
So I told the buyer, give me 1 month and I'll figure out a
One
factory
month.
and packaging and everything, which is crazy. It took 7, but I dove in. Like I acted like that first tiny, tiny order from Whole Foods, because it was only like, it wasn't Whole Foods National. It was Whole Foods, like, 3 stores in New York City.
Yeah.
But I acted like that was everything. That was the gateway to making this work. And again, I think I really realized how much I love being an entrepreneur. And so, I love being able to decide things for myself. I love no one telling me what to do. I love creating something that had never been done before, that felt very authentic to me. It was something I was so passionate about. And the thing that really lit the fire for me was the amount of people that tasted Sweet Loren's, like cookie dough, the very early stages, and would tell me how it's like they're obsessed with it, how it changed their life, how like they have a huge sweet tooth, but there's nothing for them in the market that makes their stomach feel good. Or,
Right.
someone in their family has a food allergy or is dairy free or whatever it is, and they have nothing safe for them. And I just realized there was millions of starving people that couldn't really trust a lot of the food on the shelf.
Yeah.
And I just got so passionate about that. I was like, I have the answers. I feel like I have the key to solving, this problem.
Yeah.
And like, I understand, I empathize with all these people because that's how I felt. Like a lot of food didn't feel like it was taking care of me. I feel like I couldn't trust it. And who wants to eat food that doesn't taste amazing?
Yeah.
Everyone deserves an amazing, experience. So I think all of that gave me this like crazy confidence and passion, because this industry is so hard. I knew no one in it and I knew nothing about it, but I knew for sure I didn't want to be making this out of my kitchen anymore. And
Yeah.
I was a one woman show. So like physically, I just knew I couldn't like even rent a kitchen and make them and then also be the one demoing and the one trying to coordinate the business behind it. So
Yeah.
called everyone Googled a million things, like what factories are nearby, found a factory 3-hour drive in
Oh my
upstate New
gosh.
York. And they'd never done cookie dough, but they had big mixers. And I just said to them, like, what's the smallest amount I can do? Like, I want to start as small as possible. Because I had called and found big cookie dough factories, but they were
But they
huge.
just took your call. They were like, "Yeah, sure, come on in. We'll
Yeah,
do
they were
this." Like,
tiny. They just wanted business. They were tiny. So they were like, yeah, come, you could do 30 pounds, 40 pounds of cookie dough, like no big deal. Versus these bigger factories that were cookie dough experts, but you needed to run 1,000, 2,000 pounds at a time. And I just couldn't commit to that yet.
right.
It was huge. So I just needed like the baby steps. So they'd never done cookie dough. I'm totally guessing, instead of doing like a 2-pound recipe that you would do at home, now you're going to 30 pounds. You don't just like 15 times the recipe, like it's chemistry. Baking sodas, is less than you think you need. And anyway, so I just played around with them and then we got it right and started shipping. And I hired a guy who worked in the factory to put it in the back of his car in a cooler and drive it down and be my little distributor, drive it down, to, the Whole Foods. And I was that girl demoing. I put a toaster oven in a rolly suitcase on the subway, and it was so exhausting and
Yeah.
sweaty and gross. But I would go down, I would I would plug it in Whole Foods Columbus Circle store and sample the cookies to everyone. And it was exhausting, but I'll tell you, it's what helped me like understand the consumer so well to
Yeah.
then figure out how to grow the company to really have product market fit. So like, I just met so many people and first of all, I heard enough times, this is brilliant. Like, this is a brilliant concept. Of course, I'd buy a better for you cookie dough. I didn't know that even existed. So that also validated this idea And then, I also heard a lot of feedback, like, I can't read your flavors on your package. Can you do this flavor? Can you, all these requests. And that's what I want. And then I entered another contest called the Next Big Small Brand for Culinary Genius, which was a contest in New York City. And you won branding and design work. And so I won like the contest and like the People's Choice Award. That was very validating for me because I was up against these like really cool companies in New York, and I won branding work. And so this really cool agency helped me design our, packaging, and I could help art direct it because of all of the consumer info kind of I learned from being in the store and hearing,
Okay, go on.
no,
What
no.
was the packaging before that? It was just
Oh my
like a
God. If
brown
I show you
bag.
these pictures, Rebecca, it was so janky, terrible. So the first packaging was a tub.
Oh my
And it had
gosh.
like a yellow label on it, like yellowy orange. Again, like a friend of a friend helped me design it, for like
Okay.
$200. So,
Yeah.
and then you start to think about, well, what do I look like on the shelf? Who's my competition in Whole Foods? Well, what if I got into like a more conventional store and I'm next to conventional cookie dough? What's my competition? How does my packaging pop against them?
Yeah.
It just opened my mind to thinking big, thinking mass, thinking national. And so they helped me go from a tub to like a little box that was break and bake. So it was like, instead of being in a tub that you scooped out, it was scored. So you could just break off one or two pieces. And and it helped me really play with colors. And that's actually where they helped kind of come up with the magenta color that we're now, like, Sweet Lorens is really known for.
Yeah.
Because they came up with like a bunch of different colors and people were gravitating towards this magenta. And so, I've tweaked our packaging dozens of times at this point. Now we're pretty set, like this is our packaging, but it took 10 years of kind of figuring out product market fit.
Wow. So, one thing, like I have a friend who has a cookie company, very much local, and she talks about how hard it is. And you and I, 10 years later, 20 for me, it's still hard, right? And so
Oh,
everyone's like, oh, she must be fine. But I'd love to like fast forward. You have these incredible series of events each time you overcome some huge challenge. As you sort of look at where you are now, are you still surprised that it's hard?
I am, because like I know what I signed up for, like gluten-free, vegan, better for you baking, and making sure it's, super delicious, competitive taste is not easy. Like
Right,
it's who's cracked the code on that?
right.
There's no one, there's no brand and product that's like does it all and does
Yeah,
it all amazing. So I think like I've played around with so many recipes over, the last 10 years that I just know how hard it is. But so I know what we've signed up for. I think that like some things have gotten easier and then there are other things that have gotten harder, right? So like cookie dough, we're now in 25,000 supermarkets. We're, we know how each of those supermarkets works. We have an amazing sales team that like knows how to work with the retailers. I used to go to all those meetings. I used to, I needed to be in control of everything. Now we have such a great team. I only need to really go if it's necessary,
right.
which is really only occasionally. And so like that's easier. That's amazing.
Yeah,
But now we're working on new products. And
right,
it's almost like you're starting all over again,
right,
right? It's
right. You're
like,
always back
okay,
in
now
it.
we have to create the next cookie dough. What's the
Yep,
next version of cookie dough? And that no one else has figured out. Like it's taken us years. So like this year is a really big year for us because we've only really been a refrigerated cookie dough brand, for the last 9 years. And then about 6 months ago, we launched into shelf stable. So we launched these breakfast biscuits that you
yep.
had at the retreat,
That my son was like
devouring.
obsessed with,
He's so
devouring.
cute. So that's really cool for us to be able to enter into now like a snacking shelf stable breakfast item. And then in a month, next month, we launch into Target and Kroger with refrigerated pizza dough and puff pastry.
Wow.
And so like those products have taken years and they're so delicious, so easy to use. Like they come rolled in parchment paper. You just take it out of the refrigerator, unroll it, do whatever you want with it. The pizza, they both bake in like, depending on what you're making, the pizza bakes in 10 minutes. And then, the puff pastry, you can make apple turnovers or, cheese and fig bites or whatever you like. There's so many things from savory to sweet. And in minutes, you have like the most flaky, delicious product. And, everything's gluten-free and dairy-free.
Thank
And,
the Lord. I'm desperate for a flaky puff pastry that's gluten-free.
we're going to send you some. You're going to freak out.
Thank you.
It's game changer. It's literally the most delicious light thing. And it does not taste gluten-free or vegan or dairy-free or anything weird. It just tastes amazing. And so, so I guess like, is it hard? Yeah, it's incredibly hard. It's taken 7 years to launch
Yeah,
these new
I
books.
believe it.
But now we're ready to launch. And I'm like, okay, that patience, that focus, that continued tweaking, it's now going to be worth it. And now I'm working on the next projects, right?
Right.
And so, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Of course. Of course. I know.
So
We're
no one wants to
celebrating
work this
20.
hard.
No,
I've pretty much, and no one cares this much about better for you baking. It's just in my blood at this point,
I mean, yes, for sure. I mean, I think that it's only when you look back, like you've been in business over a decade, right? You've been through the trials and failures and all that, as have I. And it's kind of like, yeah, it really takes grit to stay at it this long. And you must really fucking love it
You
if
really
that's the
do.
case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you told me what was next. I guess I have to ask the question, like, having stared down death, right? Like you did, overcoming it, like what does scare you?
I it's like now I have 2 little girls and it's like I just, if I like really focus on it, I could like just bawl thinking about it. But it's like, they're my everything,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just like making sure they're healthy and happy,
Yeah.
for the rest of their lives. And like there's only so much I can do to protect them,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's some things that happen in our life that like just there's no explanation,
Yeah.
so like I look at that, I look at, I just want to stay healthy for the rest of my life. Like, there's no, all of us walk around with no guarantee on anything, So I think it's just like it's waking up every day and making sure you're living your life so you don't have regrets.
Yeah.
And, if I was scared every day, that would be a miserable life. So just
Yeah.
like showing up happy and positive and like knowing it's all going to be okay and like having that healthier kind of mindset of being in control versus like being a victim because like that's a miserable, it's miserable to have that like a dark mentality
Yep.
like
Yep.
that. So I think, and I think with Sweet Lorens, it's like I just want it to keep growing. I want
Yeah.
it to, be a brand that can continue to make amazing products and not, fail ever, not disappoint people, and to like really realize my dream for it, have
Yeah.
it reach its potential.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this really is like my life's work. My husband's always like, you could always create another business. And I'm like,
No.
like, I can't even think about that. Like, it's
No.
just
It's painful.
so, first of all, my name is on it, but like,
Yeah.
it's just I still feel like there's so much to do. And I'm just so passionate about it because now we get hundreds of messages from people around the country that are like, you've changed my life. This
Yeah.
product is the best. And, whether it's like an athlete trying to eat clean or just someone trying to eat better for you or having a brand they trust, or you truly have like a food allergy or sensitivity, there's really not a lot for you in mass supermarkets.
Has it been hard to not compromise? Because sometimes you see these healthy brands that start out with a mission and then it's like, well, if you want to make money, you got to sub
Yeah.
the butter for palm oil.
I think we really listen to our customers.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I realized a long time ago when I started the brand that this isn't really about me anymore. Like I can bake every day all my favorite foods in my kitchen. Like
Yeah.
this is about solving a need in the market and figuring out how to touch as many people's lives as possible
Yeah.
and how to work within the system that's set,
Yeah.
So like I got to figure out how to work with retailers. I got to figure out the certain price point that works. I got to figure out what do most people want. I can't make everyone happy. Like we use oat flour. Some people are allergic to oats. Like I can't, make everyone happy, but we're trying to make as many people ecstatic. And so
Yeah.
I think we're just always listening, where's the market? What do people want? Why would I ever compromise on something that like I wouldn't feed myself or my kids, or that would make our consumers unhappy,
I love
So
that.
I think we kind of like know now the ingredients that we feel good about, that our customers love. And, we're doing our best. It's really hard to, create a product that's competitive with the multi-billion dollar, corporations on the shelf that, is the best tasting, but is better for you, but has enough shelf life to like live on a supermarket shelf forever.
Yeah.
And, like all the things that everyone wants. Like, so and I think we have guidelines within our brand of like what feels right to us,
Yeah.
So I think there's no point in compromising because the brand would get compromised,
Right. Right. I love that. So before we wrap, I have two last questions. What is a piece of advice that either someone gave to you or you've learned that you'd like to pass on?
I think the best piece of advice that my mentor kind of has drilled into me is just like expect greatness. I think if you create this attitude of just greatness, you rise up, you attract people on your team that, that reach higher. And I think, it makes you feel really proud of what you've accomplished. And I think that not everyone sets such a high bar for themselves in all
Hmm.
areas. And I don't want to be, unrealistic of what we can accomplish, but I just feel really proud. And I think our team feels really proud about like that we just set a high bar in all ways.
Yeah.
And then when you create a product that's better than anything else out there, it sells itself,
Yeah.
right? Like we
Yeah.
have such an amazing fan base. They've told their friends and family about us. Like, look at you, you found out about us from your friend. Like it's so, creating an excellent product sells itself and it really
Yeah.
solves a need. And I think then you're here to stay. And so I just would say to reach for greatness.
I love that. And my last question, which I always find to be the most entertaining one, is what would we be surprised to know about you? I always am like, what? This person does this, or they have this weird quirk, or whatever it is.
Um, oh, one weird quirk of mine is that, like, I'm Mrs. Like healthy, love fresh, unprocessed food. I hate fruit salad more than
Oh,
anything.
same. Unless
Oh,
it's really fresh. Like it has to be like freshly made, but the sitting in the thing in the parfait is like gross,
thank you. I
right?
don't know how people
Soggy,
do it.
cold, mushy.
Oh, I can't. I
No
can't.
bananas
Like,
ever in a fruit salad, right?
thank you. I
Ugh,
like if the fruit is fresh, I love fruit. Cut it up fresh, put it on a platter. Don't have it touch. The
yeah,
second it starts, you know,
melting.
yeah, melding, it's
I'm
like,
there with you. Or like
oh,
when
I
they put the
appreciate that because some people
granola
are
with
like,
the
that's
fruit
such a funny
salad
quirk.
and then the yogurt, it's like mushy on mush. It's just disgusting. Thank God you feel that way. There are not enough
I
fruit
knew you
salad
were my
haters in the world.
sister.
So, not that anyone needs to know this, but where are you sold and where can people find and follow you?
So you can find Sweet Loren's cookie dough in Whole Foods, Target, Wegmans, Stop and Shop, Ralph's, Vons, Safeway, all the major supermarkets in the refrigerated dough section. You can always throw your zip code into our store locator at sweetlorens.com to find where we're sold, like as close to you as possible. Our breakfast biscuits are new to the cookie aisle, and they're in all Whole Foods and also on Amazon. So you can check out Sweet Loren's breakfast biscuits. The cinnamon sugar are my personal fave. And then we're launching the pizza dough and the puff pastry in the refrigerated dough section in a month, and they're game changer. I'm definitely going to send you some. You're going to freak out. I can't
I
wait to hear
can't
what
wait.
you honestly think. You have to be
Can't wait.
honest and tell me.
Yeah.
Um, and that is going to launch in Target and Kroger in a month. So that's very exciting. And then you can follow us at Sweet Loren's, Sweet Lorens. And I'm Loren, Lorenb Castle, Castle, on Instagram. And LinkedIn or wherever else you want to connect with us.
It was so good to hear your story, and you are fucking strong, stronger than I ever knew. I didn't know the first part of your story. Obviously, we spent time together, but we never went there. So thank you for sharing that and how just motivated and incredible what you've built. So thank you for coming
Thank you.
on.
I so appreciate it. I hope just sharing it, we all go through hard things. So if you can find a way to turn those hard things into your superpower,
Yeah,
then, it can heal you and, you're unstoppable.
that's right. I love it. It was so good
Thank you
to see
so
your
much.
face.
I
Yes.
know. I miss you.
I just wanted to thank you guys for listening to today's episode. I also want to ask you to rate and review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it actually helps with search and algorithms. So if you love this podcast, it is an easy way to get it more visible and out there. I also want you to follow me on Instagram at Rebecca Minkoff, at RM Superwomen, and be sure to check out my book, Fearless, The New Rules for Unlocking Creativity, Courage, and Success. Thank you again, and you will hear from me next week.